The instructor knew immediately that this was a mistake, not just a bureaucratic error, not an incorrect code in the system, an evolutionary mistake. The human woman stood among cadets of other species, looking as if she had ended up there by accident. She was shorter than almost everyone else, thinner, lighter, and she didn't look at all like a creature made for war. Her shoulders didn't even reach the chests of the Kareth cadets. Even the civilian representatives of Vecron had more body mass. And yet her file glowed with green status. Accepted. Combat track. The instructor looked at her longer than protocol allowed. Name? He asked. Cadet Elena Voronova, sir. Her voice was calm, too calm, no nervousness, no fear, as if she had been here before. The instructor opened her physiological report again. Bone density, above average. Muscle indicators, normal. Nothing special. Nothing that would explain why she was here. You realize that the combat course has a mortality rate of 32%? Yes, sir. No pause. And you still signed up? Yes, sir. Several cadets nearby chuckled quietly. Kareth, over 2 meters tall, leaned over to his neighbor. She won't even last the first day. Elena didn't even turn her head, as if she hadn't heard, or as if she didn't care. The instructor activated the field. The gravity generators roared. 1.5 times standard gravity. Most of the cadets tensed up immediately. 2 of them staggered. Elena simply shifted her feet slightly, like a person standing on public transport. 2.0 gravity. The heavier types began to breathe more deeply. One cadet dropped to his knee. Elena stood straight. 2.5. Kareth next to her growled quietly from the strain. Drops of sweat fell to the floor. Elena adjusted the sleeve of her uniform. It seemed to have gotten a little cold. 3.0. The first cadet fell, then the second. The instructor looked at the human woman. She was standing. Her back was straight. Her breathing was even. It was as if nothing had changed. He increased the intensity. 3.2. Now even the large ones couldn't keep up. Half the squad was lying down. The others were standing only with their last ounce of strength. The human woman turned her head slightly. Sir. The instructor froze. Yes? Is this a warm-up? The silence in the hall became absolute. Even the generators seemed quieter. The instructor looked at the readings, then at her again. For the first time in many years of service, he felt a strange sensation. Not surprise, not irritation, something else. A premonition of trouble. The silence after her words lasted only a second. Then the instructor turned off the audio channel of his helmet and said coldly, 3.5 gravity. The generators roared louder. The floor vibrated slightly. This was no longer a standard test. It was a level usually used for rejection. Vecran was the first to scream. His long limbs buckled almost immediately. He fell heavily, as if a piece of metal had collapsed. Medical drones rose from their docking stations. Cadet unfit, a synthetic voice calmly announced. Kareth behind Elena was still holding on, but not for long. His legs were shaking, his muscles were cramping, his eyes filled with blood. He tried to stand, not because he was ordered to, because of pride. Hang in there, he hissed to himself. 3.6. There was a crack. The sound was quiet, but everyone heard it. Kareth screamed, not out of fear, out of pain. He fell to his side, clutching his arm. Medical drones rushed to him. Fractured shoulder structure. Internal damage. Evacuation. The drones lifted him off the floor. Kareth was still breathing heavily, but his eyes were fixed in one direction, on Elena. She stood there, not even looking at him, as if nothing had happened. 3.7. Now there were only 4 left in the ranks, and one person. One of the big cadets tried to take a step. His leg simply wouldn't lift. He fell face forward, without a sound. The instructor checked his vitals. His heart was beating, but the cadet was unconscious. Elena took a slow breath. The instructor noticed it immediately. Not heavy breathing, not a struggle, just a breath, as if she were assessing the situation. 3.8. Now there were 2 left, and a person. One cadet was crying quietly. His hands slid across the floor. He tried to get up again and again. His claws left scratches in the metal, but his body no longer obeyed him. He gave up. The Madronians took him away. The instructor looked at the last non-human, a huge cadet of the Kareth species, almost 2.5 meters tall, a living mountain of muscle. He looked only forward, straight at the human woman, and she looked back at him, calmly, without provocation, without mockery. She just looked. 3.9. Kareth stood, his body trembled, his breathing became ragged, and suddenly he dropped to his knees, slowly, controlled, as if admitting defeat. "Enough," he croaked, and fell. Now there was only one figure left in the ranks, Elena Voronova, 4.0. The generators roared. It was a level that even instructors without armor could not withstand. She stood there for a few seconds, then she turned her head. "Sir," the instructor was silent. "Is there an upper limit?" The instructor looked at her vital signs. Pulse, stable, breathing, even. Muscle tension was minimal. It was as if the system was wrong, or it was as if she was made for this. For the first time, the instructor felt a chill run down his spine, because now it was obvious. The problem was not that she had passed the test. The problem was that she hadn't even started to get tired. After the test, she was the last to be released, not because of protocol, because of the instructor. He turned off the gravity slowly, as if checking to see if she would stagger. Elena did not stagger. When the field disappeared completely, she simply took a step forward, then another. As if nothing special had happened, as if it were a normal day. The instructor watched her leave the hall. He found it strange that her footsteps sounded quieter than the others. In the corridor, the cadets were already waiting for medical checks. Some were sitting, some were lying on stretchers, some were simply silent. Kareth, with his bandaged arm, was the first to raise his head, and he saw her. Elena walked calmly, without haste, without triumph, as if she were not the only one left standing. The conversation died down on its own. No one gave a signal, no one gave an order. It just became quiet. One of the cadets took a step back, then another, to let her pass, as if she were a senior officer or a predator. Elena didn't seem to notice. She just walked on. Things got even stranger in the medical sector. The automatic scanner scanned her. Green signal. No damage detected. The veteran medical technician looked at the readings longer than necessary. Then he checked again and again. "Impossible," he said quietly. Elena stood calmly. "Is something wrong?" The technician flinched. "No." Pause. "You can go." She nodded and left. The technician watched her go, and only when the door closed did he say quietly, "This isn't normal." The next day, it became obvious. The cadets began to keep their distance, not openly, not demonstratively, just naturally. When she entered the dining room, There were empty seats next to her. Not everyone got up at once, but no one sat down next to her. Kareth, with his arm in a sling, saw her first. He silently picked up his tray. He moved to another table. The other cadets did the same, slowly, without words. Elena stood for a few seconds with the tray in her hands. She looked at the empty table. Then she sat down, alone, and began to eat, calmly, methodically, as if it were normal. The conversations began quietly, but they quickly spread. She stood at 4, without an exosuit, without stimulants. Even Kareth fell. The medical scan showed nothing. She feels no pain. She doesn't get tired. She doesn't breathe heavily. The instructor overheard these conversations by accident, but he didn't stop them, because he was thinking the same thing. He opened her file again. Elena Voronova, Earth. No modifications, no implants, no military background. Normal. Too normal. The instructor stared at the photo in the file for a long time. Calm eyes, an ordinary face, nothing threatening. And yet, he pressed the request button. Request. Additional background, check. The system responded almost immediately. Clearance denied. The instructor froze. This rarely happened. Very rarely. He slowly leaned back in his chair, and for the first time, he thought what he hadn't dared to say before. What if the Academy isn't checking her, because it knows enough? It happened on the 4th day. Before that, everyone kept their distance. No one came close. No one said anything unnecessary. No one looked her in the eye for more than a second. But there is always someone who needs to prove that fear is an exaggeration. His name was Rathar. He was big, even by Academy standards, broad shoulders, thick bone armor along his arms, a mass almost 3 times greater than that of a human. He wasn't the first to fall on the test, and that was enough to be proud of. Elena stood by the training stand checking her equipment, calmly, methodically, as always. She sensed him before she heard him. Heavy footsteps, too close. She turned her head. Rathar was standing almost next to her. Too close. The other cadets immediately fell silent. Some stepped back. No one intervened. "Is it true?" he said. Elena looked calm. "What exactly?" "That you withstood 4 gravities?" "Yes." He leaned closer. His voice became lower. "That's impossible." But it happened. Several cadets exchanged nervous glances. Rathar smiled. Bad. So the system was wrong. Elena didn't answer. He poked her shoulder with his finger. Easy, easy for him, hard enough for a human. "You're weak." The silence became heavy. Elena looked at his hand, then back into his eyes. "Don't do that." No anger, no threat, just a fact. That only spurred him on. He grabbed her by the shoulder, as if he wanted to move her, to show the others that she was ordinary, that she fell like everyone else, that she was not special. His fingers tightened around the uniform, his muscles tensed, and nothing. She didn't even move. His eyes changed from mockery to incomprehension. He squeezed harder, now with full force, and that's when she collapsed, quickly, but without sharpness. She just turned her wrist, a small movement, almost lazy. Rathar suddenly found himself on his knee. The floor shook. He didn't even understand how. His arm was twisted at an angle that forced his body to obey. He didn't break it, but he could have, easily, very easily. His eyes widened. For the first time, fear, not pain, realization. She stood nearby, not even tense. "I told you not to do that." Quietly, she loosened her grip a little. Enough for him to breathe, not enough to break free. "Can you hear me?" He nodded, quickly. She let go, just let go, as if nothing had happened. Rathar remained on the floor. He didn't move for a few seconds. Then he slowly got up, without looking at her, and walked away silently. No one said a word. Elena returned to the stand and continued checking the equipment, as if it had been a break of a few seconds. That evening, the distance between them grew even greater. Now the cadets didn't just avoid her. They stepped aside in advance. Even those who hadn't seen the incident sensed something in the air. Something had changed. The instructor received the report 10 minutes later. He watched the recording once, then twice. Then he slowed it down 4 times, and only then did he say quietly, "Impossible." Because the scariest thing was not that she had won, but that her movements looked as if she was holding back. The message came in the evening. Short, official. Cadet Voronova, report to Instructor Command Office, 1900. No explanations, no reasons. Elena arrived at exactly 1900, not earlier, not later. She knocked once. "Come in." The door opened silently. The office was almost empty. A desk, 2 chairs, a tactical display on the wall, and the instructor. He didn't offer her a seat right away. He looked at her for a few seconds, as if he was comparing her to something in his memory. "Cadet Voronova." "Sir." "Sit down." She sat down. Her back was straight. Her hands were on her knees, motionless, not tense, just control. The instructor activated the display. A recording appeared. Rathar. The moment he grabbed her, the moment she fell. He played the fragment 3 times, slower, even slower. Then he paused the frame. Rathar's hand was already on the floor, and she was just starting her turn. "Explain that." "Self-defense, sir." "I can see that." Pause. "Where did you learn that?" "At home." He watched silently. "Be more specific." "Basic training? Military?" "No, sir." The pause grew longer. "Sports?" "Partly." "Partly?" "It's mandatory." The instructor froze. "Necessary?" "Yes, sir." "For military academies?" "For schools." The silence became thick. The instructor slowly leaned forward. "Are you saying that human children receive this training?" "Yes, sir." He looked at her for a long time. He looked for signs of deception. He found none. "From what age?" "Around 6 years old." The instructor leaned back in his chair. He was silent for a few seconds. Then he said quietly, "Impossible." Elena said nothing. He opened a new file, Human Planetary Data, hundreds of pages. He skimmed through them quickly. Then he stopped. "Your planet has a standard gravity of 1.0. "Yes, sir." "Nothing unusual?" "Not for us." He looked up. "You stood at 4. "Yes, sir." "No stimulants?" "Yes, sir." "No modifications?" "Yes, sir." He looked at her for a long time. "Why?" Pause. For the first time she thought a little longer. "We're used to enduring." A simple answer. No pathos, no pride, just a fact. And it sounded scarier than any other answer. The instructor turned off the display. "Do you realize that the other cadets are afraid of you?" "Yes, sir." "That's a problem." "I'm not trying." "I know." Pause. "That's the problem." He stood up, slowly walked around the table, stopped next to her. Even sitting down she looked small, but that feeling was deceptive, and he knew it. "Cadet Voronova." "Sir." "If you wanted to break that cadet's arm, it would take less than a second." He froze. "And you didn't do it?" "No, sir." "Why?" "He's a cadet." Pause. "Not an enemy." The instructor looked at her for a few seconds, and for the first time in many years of service, he had a strange thought. Not fear, worse, relief, because for the first time he understood the most dangerous creature in the academy chooses not to be dangerous. "You're free to go, cadet." "Yes, sir." She stood up, nodded, and left. The door closed quietly. The instructor remained standing, staring into the void, and thinking only one thing. If this is an ordinary person, then what are the extraordinary ones like? The order came the next morning. Combat evaluation. Cadet Voronova, opponent, instructor. The cadets gathered earlier than usual. The news spread instantly. Even those who could barely walk after the gravity test came to watch. No one spoke loudly, but everyone waited. The training arena was large, metal floor, marker lines, automatic sensors. The instructor was already standing there, in light combat armor, not full, but enough to withstand most types of academy attacks. Elena entered through the main gate, without armor, standard uniform. Several cadets exchanged glances. Someone whispered quietly, "She's going to die." The instructor heard, but he said nothing. "The rules are simple," he said. His voice echoed across the arena. "This is a skills assessment. Lethal force is prohibited. Stop on my command or when you're incapacitated." He looked at her. "Understood?" "Yes, sir." "Weapons?" "No weapons." Several cadets flinched. The instructor raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" "Yes, sir." Pause. "As you wish." He activated the field. The arena barriers flashed with light. "Begin." The instructor lunged first, fast, much faster than the cadets expected. His mass made his movements terrifying. He wasn't holding back completely, just enough not to maim. His arm swung forward, precise, controlled, a move that knocked cadets down every week. Elena moved to the side, a small step. The blow passed by. The instructor turned around immediately. Second blow, faster. She dodged again, as if she knew in advance. Third blow, even faster. She took half a step back, as if it were a dance. The hall fell silent. Too silent. The instructor sped up. Now for real, a series of blows, fast, precise, deadly, without restraint. She moved between them, calmly, minimally, not a single unnecessary movement, as if she were conserving her strength, as if she could go on for hours. The instructor understood this, and that's when he changed tactics. He feinted, then a sharp step forward, faster than before. His hand almost reached her, almost. And then she lunged forward, not backward, forward. No one expected it. She was too close. The instructor tried to intercept her. Too late. Her hand touched his armor, lightly, almost gently. The instructor suddenly understood. She could have hit him. She could have broken his ribs. She could have damaged his breathing plates. She could have done a lot. At her for a long time. Too long. Then he at her for a long time. Too long. Then he said, "Stop the test." The barriers turned off. The cadets were silent. No one moved. The instructor came closer, just so she could hear him. "You let me touch you only once." "Yes, sir." "And it was intentional." "Yes, sir." Pause. "Why?" "You are the instructor." He looked at her for a few seconds and said quietly, "No." Pause. "You held back." "Yes, sir." He nodded, slowly, as if confirming something to himself. Then he turned back to the cadets. "The evaluation is complete." Pause. "The result." The silence became absolute. "Excellent." No one laughed. No one applauded, because everyone understood. The scariest thing was not that she had won, but that She hadn't even tried to win. The ship arrived without warning. Not a cadet transport. Not a supply ship. A military vessel. The dark hull hovered silently near the station. No show of force, no escort, but the identification code forced the dispatchers to immediately notify the Academy Command. Earth Military Liaison. The instructor received the call 2 minutes later. A short order. Attend arrival. No explanation. It meant only one thing. The guest was important. Very important. The airlock opened slowly. A single figure emerged. A human. A man. Taller than Elena. Broad shoulders. A dark uniform without unnecessary insignia. Only one symbol of Earth on the collar. He moved calmly, without haste, as if he were already familiar with this place. The instructor approached him. "State your name." "Captain Marcus Reed." His voice was even, calm, without tension, but there was something else in it, something firm, as if orders were more natural than words. The instructor noticed it immediately. This man moved differently, not like a cadet, not like a civilian, not even like most soldiers. His steps were quiet, too quiet for such a large man. His eyes moved constantly, assessing distances, exits, corners, threats, automatically. "Reason for the visit?" asked the instructor. "Observation." "Of whom?" The captain looked straight at him. "Of Cadet Voronova." The instructor felt something tighten inside. "Why?" The captain replied calmly. "Standard procedure." "For what?" Pause. "For people like her." They walked down the corridor in silence. The cadets parted as usual. But this time, they weren't looking at Elena. They were looking at the captain, and they stepped aside even faster, as if instinctively. Elena was standing in the training hall when they entered. She turned her head, and for the first time ever, the instructor saw a change in her expression. Not fear, not tension, recognition. She straightened up a little more. "Sir." The captain nodded. "Cadet Voronova." The instructor noticed. She became a little more cautious. Barely noticeable, but it was there, and that scared him more than anything else. "How's the training going?" the captain asked. "Good, sir." "Any problems?" "No, sir." Pause. "Gravity test?" "Completed." "Combat?" "Completed." The captain nodded, as if it confirmed his expectations. Then he turned to the instructor. "Are you satisfied with her results?" "Yes." Pause. The instructor added, "She exceeds the standards." The captain smiled slightly, barely noticeable. "I know." And then the instructor asked a question. "Is she special?" The captain looked at him for a long time. Then he replied, "No." Silence. "She's average." The instructor thought he had misheard. "Average?" "Yes." The captain looked at Elena. "The upper half, but average." And the instructor felt a real chill, because if this was average, then the upper level was something else entirely. The captain turned back to him. "Would you allow a short test?" The instructor replied automatically, "I do." And only then did he realize that he hadn't asked the most important question. "What kind of test?" The captain looked calm. "A very short one." Then he said, "Cadet Voronova." "Sir, show him the difference." The instructor felt the air in the room grow colder, because for the first time he thought, maybe, she had been holding back not because of the academy, but because of him. The training hall fell silent. No one moved. The captain took a few steps forward, slowly, calmly, as if there was plenty of time. "The rules are standard," the instructor said automatically. The captain shook his head slightly. "No." Pause. "Full contact is allowed." Several cadets flinched. The instructor looked sharply. "This is a training academy." "I know." A calm response. "I am responsible for the risks." Pause. The instructor nodded reluctantly. "Accepted." Elena stood opposite the captain, calmly. But this time, a little differently. Her body weight was shifted. Her knees were slightly bent. Her arms were relaxed, but ready. The captain looked at her for a few seconds, as if reading her. "Ready?" "Yes, sir." Pause. "Begin." She moved first, quickly, faster than against the instructor. Several cadets didn't even see the first move. She closed the distance instantly. The blow was precise, controlled, enough to stop most of the academy's students. The captain moved a few centimeters, and that was enough. Her strike missed. He caught her arm easily, as if he knew in advance. Elena tried to break free. With another move, quick, unexpected. The captain was already there. Second interception, turn, and she was on the floor. Quick, clean, without unnecessary force. The floor didn't even ring. The silence became absolute. No one breathed loudly. The captain took a step back. He let her get up. She got up immediately, without pause. The instructor noticed. She didn't look surprised, as if she had been expecting it. "Again," said the captain. She nodded. The second round was faster. She attacked with a series of moves, strikes, feints, changes of direction, speed that the instructor had never seen before. And yet, the captain was faster, not significantly, but enough. He dodged minimally, economically, as if he used fewer movements than she did, and that's why he won. He took a step forward, unexpectedly. He broke the distance, and again she found herself on the floor. This time he didn't back off right away. His hand stopped near her throat, without touching, a centimeter from her skin. Pause. Then he backed off. She got up for the third time, and the instructor realized something strange. She was breathing a little faster, but her eyes had become calmer, as if she was learning right now. The third round was short. She attacked. The captain intercepted. Turn, fall, the end. "Enough," he said. She froze. Then she straightened up. "Yes, sir." The captain looked at her for a few seconds. Then he said quietly, "Good." That word sounded harder than any praise. She nodded, barely noticeably. Then he turned to the instructor. "Do you see the difference?" The instructor was silent. "Yes." Pause. "But I don't understand." The captain nodded. "That's normal." Then he said calmly, "She's a cadet." Pause. "I'm not." The instructor looked at Elena again and realized the worst. She had lost. Clearly, no chance. And yet, she looked more dangerous than ever before, because now it was obvious. If she was like that, then the people who trained people like her must be something else entirely. A sharp sound pierced the station. Alert. Security breach. Alert. Security breach. The cadets froze. This had never happened before. Training alarms sounded different, calmer, predictable. This was a real alarm. The system's voice echoed throughout the academy. Unidentified hostiles. Docking ring. Several cadets exchanged glances. Docking ring C was close, too close. The instructor spoke sharply. "All cadets, take cover." No one argued. The cadets moved quickly, but not in an organized manner. Fear broke their discipline. Captain Marcus Reed was already moving, quickly, precisely, without hesitation. He looked at the instructor. "How many guards?" "Not many." "Weapons?" "Standard station issue." The captain nodded briefly. Then he said, "We're going there." The instructor froze. "We?" The captain looked at Elena. Yes. Elena was already beside him, without asking, without hesitation. The instructor looked at them both and understood. They weren't even considering staying. The corridors were half empty. The emergency lights were flashing, red, sharp, nervous. Gunshots could be heard somewhere in the distance. The instructor felt a chill run down his spine. It was real. They reached Docking Ring C in 2 minutes. The door was broken. The metal was bent inward, as if something had broken through by force. A security drone lay on the floor, torn apart. The instructor smelled smoke and something else. Blood. Someone else's. The captain raised his hand. Stop. He listened. Elena did the same, without a command. Footsteps. Heavy. Getting closer. The instructor readied his weapon. His fingers trembled slightly. He noticed it and hated himself for it. The first creature appeared from around the corner of the corridor. Large, armored skin, claws like knives, cold eyes. Not a cadet, not an academy soldier, a predator. Followed by a second and a third. The instructor raised his weapon, but he didn't have time to fire. The captain had already collapsed. Quickly, much faster than in the training hall, without restraint. The first blow broke the creature's neck. The sound was short, dry. The second tried to strike with her claws. He dodged. The movement was almost invisible. His hand struck under the armor. The creature fell immediately. The third lunged forward, and that's when Elena collapsed. The instructor had seen her move fast before, but not like this. She slipped past him from the side. A blow to the joint, a crack. The creature lost its balance. A second blow. The throat. The end. It all took seconds, maybe less. Silence returned suddenly, only a siren somewhere in the distance. The instructor stood motionless, because only now did he understand. This was not a fight. It was a hunt. The captain checked the corridor. Clear. Elena was already looking ahead. There's more. He nodded, as if it were obvious. And that's when the instructor understood. In training, in tests, in sparring, they held back. Always. Completely. But now, people stopped holding back. And it didn't look heroic, not impressive, not dramatic. The scariest thing was something else. It looked mundane. As if they had done it many times before. The battle lasted another 7 minutes. For the instructor, it seemed like an eternity. For the people, it was a routine operation. They moved quickly and silently through the corridors. The captain was in front. Elena was slightly behind. They didn't discuss the plan. They didn't argue. They didn't ask for clarification. It was as if they both knew what to do, even before the situation arose. When it was over, there were no enemies left in Docking Ring C. Security arrived later. Medics arrived even later. People were already standing calmly, as if nothing special had happened. That same evening, the instructor sat in his office. In front of him was an open file. Species Evaluation Report. Human. He didn't start writing for a long time. Words seemed insufficient, too weak, for what he had seen. Finally, he began. Physical characteristics. Humans can withstand overloads that exceed the standards of most species in the academy. Pain tolerance is exceptional. Endurance is high. Reaction speed is above average. Adaptability is extraordinary. Behavioral characteristics. Humans demonstrate an unusually high level of self-control. In a training environment, they consciously limit their effectiveness. The reasons for this are unknown. Perhaps they are social. Perhaps they are ethical. Combat characteristics. Even cadets demonstrate a level of effectiveness close to that of professional soldiers of other types. Trained human soldiers significantly exceed these indicators. Observations of Captain Reed confirm this. The instructor paused. He looked at the screen. It seemed too dry, too formal, and not truthful enough. He opened a new chapter. Personal observations. The most dangerous trait of humans is not strength, nor is it speed, and not even endurance. The most dangerous trait of humans is their habit of holding back. In training, people look strong. In battle, people look effective. But only in the face of a real threat does it become clear. What we usually see is only a small part of their capabilities. He paused again. His hands hovered over the keyboard, and only now did he write the last paragraph. Slowly, pondering every word. Conclusion: the Academy can teach people to fight alongside us. It can teach them our protocols. It can teach them our tactics. But there is one thing the Academy cannot teach. People come already prepared for battle, and if humanity ever becomes our enemy, no academy in the galaxy will be able to prepare us sufficiently. The file was saved automatically. The instructor sat motionless for a long time, staring at the dark screen, thinking about the quiet girl from Earth who sat alone in the cafeteria and looked completely ordinary.